What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracingonline.com, and today we're going to build some DraftKings lineups for Homestead-Miami. All right, we got our first race with that we actually got to kind of take into consideration dominator points. You know, last week in Daytona, it was all about place differential, all about finishing position. Now we got 267 laps scheduled for Sunday at Homestead. And what makes this... Sorry, just kind of messing with this right now. What kind of makes Homestead an interesting track is the fact that it's a high wear track. So Homestead's a mile and a half in length, but it's not the typical cookie cutter mile and a half that we are used to seeing, like Las Vegas or a Texas or a Kansas. Homestead eats up tires in the same way that Atlanta eats up tires, in the same way that Auto Club ate up tires, in the same way that Darlington eats up tires. If these drivers on Sunday have 10 laps on their tires and a caution comes out, they are going to want tires. They're going to come in and pit, because if you don't, you're going to be a sitting duck on the restart. So, like, for example, Texas, when Austin Dillon won last year, he won it by not pitting or taking two tires. I forget. Same with Cole Custer at Kentucky. You cannot do that here. The best cars are going to finish up front on Sunday at Homestead unless they have mechanical issues. That's just how it works. The best drivers are going to get to the front quickly, by the way, and they're going to stay there for most of the race unless something happens. Unless you're like Martin Truex Jr. a couple years ago and your team puts on the left side tires on the right side and the right side on the left. But let's go ahead and take a look at stats on high wear tracks. So in my DraftKings write-up this week, I went ahead and compiled. There were 6 races on high wear tracks last year. Now, 3 of these races were at Darlington. There was 1 here at Homestead, 1 in Atlanta, and 1 at Auto Club. Combine them all together, so you have to take this into consideration. These are heavily weighted toward Darlington, so if a driver's not good at Darlington, like Ryan Blaney, stats going to be a little skewed here. But we get a good idea of who's good on these high wear tracks, who's able to manage their tires well. Denny Hamlin, best average finish on high wear tracks last year. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, even though he had a bad year last year, average finish of 7.5 on these tracks. Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch, both 8.7. Alex Bowman, 9.5. We'll talk a lot about him here today. I really like him this week. Eric Almirola, 9.7. Got Truex at 11.2. Tyler Reddick, definitely going to be a chalk play in this slate. And then Austin Dillon, 10th best average finish at 12.5. These charts that I included, I also have it here for low wear tracks, but they include number of starts, the average finish, the average running position, which how the average running position was calculated was took the average running position of each driver for each race, multiplied it by the total number of laps that they ran in that race, and then did that for all 6 races or all 9 for low wear. And then took that sum and divided it by the total number of laps that they ran. The reason I did this is because, so like, for example, one of the races, I forget, I don't even remember what race it was, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wrecked on the first lap, had an average running position of 40th. I didn't want to average running position and that 40 being weighed so heavily when he didn't even make 1 lap. So that's why I did it that way. Average running position on high wear tracks last year, Denny Hamlin 6.1, Chase Elliott 6.6, got Truex at 7.2, Harvick 7.2, Alex Bowman again 7.4, and then a little bit of a gap back to Kyle Busch at 9.9, another gap down to Brad Keselowski 11, Kurt Busch 11.9, Eric Almirola 12.1, Eric Jones 12.3. That's noteworthy. And let's look at fastest laps here quick, because like I said, we are going to be able to, or we need to take into account dominator points in DraftKings this weekend. So Martin Truex Jr. led the way on high wear tracks last year at 176 fastest laps. Kevin Harvick, Alex Bowman, both with over 140, and then quite a big gap there down to Chase Elliott, 104, Ryan Blaney, 98, Denny Hamlin, 94. Low wear tracks we'll take a look at real quick. Brad Keselowski with the best average finish. Kevin Harvick right there with him at 7.2. Ryan Blaney, 7.7. Larson, who only made one start, I believe it was at Las Vegas, finished 9th. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Logano, right there at 9 to 11. And then Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Matt DiBenedetto had a really good year on lower intermediates last year. Average running position on those, Blaney blew everyone out of the water. Average running position is 6.2 over 9 races, which is really If you read my stuff last year, you know I pretty much talked about Ryan Blaney every single mile and a half race. He was my go-to, plug him in, and made me some money. So obviously I'm going to do that. There you have Alex Bowman there again at 3rd, right behind Truex in 2nd. Joey Logano, Chase Elliott rounding out the top 5. You can see the rest there on the screen. Fastest laps, I'm not too worried about this, looking at this, but something to consider. Blaney, Elliott, Truex all over 200. Harvick 186, Bowman 178, Hamlin 144. Kyle Busch, Keselowski, Almirola, and Byron rounding out the top 10. Let's look at Homestead statistics, loop data, particularly before we get into these lineups. So Homestead is interesting because it used to be the championship race. It used to be the final race of the season. And with that came a lot of drivers not giving a shit. So with it being the last race of the season, and especially when they introduced this playoff format of, there's basically only 4 drivers that are really racing for anything, you maybe had a couple drivers like a Kyle Larson that cared enough to race this, but just like we saw at Phoenix last year, the only drivers that gave a shit in that race were the championship 4. And that's why they're always faster than everybody else, because nobody wants to be the guy that screws up the championship. And honestly, most of them probably just want to go into the offseason and get ready for next year. So that brings a new perspective into this Homestead race, because last year was the first time that it wasn't the championship race. Now, this is the second year of it, but this is only the second year that we've raced at Homestead this early in the year. Another interesting aspect of last year's race, which Denny Hamlin dominated, led, I think, over half the race, won from the pole, won stage 1, won stage 2. That was supposed to be a midday race like this one this weekend is scheduled to be. It turned into a night race. The reason I'm pointing this out is Joe Gibbs Racing last year, especially at the beginning of the year, were not good on intermediate tracks during the day. They had something figured out at night, but they weren't that good during the day. So will that continue on this year is something to consider, especially with how DraftKings has Denny Hamlin priced this week. As I'm sure if you've followed me at all, I do not like Denny Hamlin, and I'm going to be underweight on him, because it's a matter of principle at this point, but I also think it's the best strategic play. So something to consider there, and remember, is how Joe Gibbs Racing has been, or was last year, on intermediate tracks during the day. But let's take a look at fastest laps at Homestead-Miami. So Kyle Busch leads the way. This thing's really not working right. There we go. Kyle Busch leads the way, 292. This is career fastest laps. So it'd probably be better to look at percent fastest laps, which would take into account the percentage of the fastest laps that the driver has obtained in the total laps that he's ran. So we see Reddick, who had the most fastest laps here last year, is going to be the chalk play this weekend, 18%. Kyle Larson, another great play, 13.5%. And then it's pretty much like everybody. Like you have Kyle Busch, Truex, and Harvick up there all above 6%. But then, another gap down to Hamlin at 4.5%, Chase Elliott at 4%. Ryan Blaney's right there at 3.6%. And somewhat surprisingly, Eric Jones, when he was in that 3.2%. He had a really good race last year. Was definitely one of the faster cars in that race. Again, though, Joe Gibbs Racing car at night. Average running position for their career at Homestead, Tyler Reddick who had a great race last year. Again, only one race in this data set. Average running position of 3.918. Then you got Harvick, Truex, Larson, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin. Pretty much, I'd consider the top 5. I wouldn't throw Reddick in there with just one race under his belt, but he is. And one more. We got average green flag speed at Homestead. Kyle Larson, significantly faster than everybody else. We know the story of Kyle Larson at Homestead. This could still be his best track. He was always, every single time we ended the season here, he was one of the drivers that actually raced and cared other than the championship guys, and he was out to win. And he has a couple races of leading, significant over 100 laps in those races. He was never able to close out a win. He has 3 top 5s and 7 starts here, and now he's in the best equipment of his career. So he's definitely someone that's going to get a lot of attention this weekend. He should be really high owned in DraftKings, especially where they have him priced. Now it comes down to, will he be that good? Is there a strategy play to go underweight on him? And is being out of the car for a year going to affect him, especially at a track like Homestead, where running up against the wall is the place to be and the fastest way to go? Is he going to make a small mistake early because he's not used to running the wall in these cars? I don't know. I don't think it'll happen. I think Larson's too good for that to happen, but could be wrong. One more stat here. Average speed late in the run, which I thought was, if you follow me on Twitter, if you saw me tweet this earlier this week. If you don't, give me a follow. Fan Racing Online is my handle. I post a lot of, I think, helpful stats out there, as well as spamming your feed with my content. But Chase Elliott, excuse me, significant. So this statistic is significant in my eyes because average speed late in the run at a track like Homestead means you're good at managing your tires. If you're fast late in the run, you know how to keep your tires to where you will have some grip at the end and can make speed. The thing with Chase Elliott, I love this stat of being late in the run. The thing with Chase Elliott, though, is he sucks at restarts, which it definitely limits his dominator potential for me, but he's still an option to, grab fastest laps late in the run. If he somehow improved his restarts, he could be a good play and I think he could win this race. I just don't know about him going out and dominating by a wide margin and having the best car on Sunday. Let's quickly look at my projections for this race. Again, if you want to see these, if you want to see my write-up, I will link it in the description of this video on YouTube. If you're watching it on the site, you're already on there. Just scroll. Martin Truex Jr. projected highest at 69. Nice points. Got Kyle Busch at 67.97 projected points, starting back in 24th. Great upside there for place differential as well as finish. And when he can get up there, dominator potential. Harvick, who I think can, if Hamlin doesn't lead early in this race, Harvick is right there, as well as Christopher Bell. We'll get to him. Kyle Larson there, 4th highest at 64.35. What you see here is all of these drivers are super close in my projections, these high-priced drivers. So as of right now, it's Friday right now. I can't get a solid handle on this slate and how I want to attack it, which typically leads to me being all over the map when it comes to my lineups and, just kind of covering my bases. Last week, I was confident. I was confident in not picking AJ Allmendinger, which ended up killing me. I was confident in Chase Briscoe, who was looking. I thought he was going to finish, top 10, and then his hood came up and covered his windshield. I was heavy on Christopher Bell, who won the race, and I was heavy on Kyle Larson, who was up there about to take the lead and then slam the wall. So sometimes it just works out like that. You get confident and you go with a strategy and then it doesn't work out. 99 out of 100 times I'd play that exact same strategy last week at the Daytona Road Course. I'd probably put more Allmendinger in my lineups, but I would follow the exact same strategy. I was super confident in that, and I was liking how I was looking with 10 laps to go before hell broke out. But anyway, so this week, and especially with all these high-priced drivers, they're all very close. And even in my I don't have this up, so let me pull this up quick. Even with my algorithm predicted finishing order, these guys are all very close in the predicted finishing order. And part of that is because this is the first intermediate track, and we don't really have a lot of this year data, especially significant and impactful data, to go off of. So my algorithm has Hamlin and Harvick right up there, 1 and 2. Elliott, Logano, Truex, Keselowski. I throw a blanket over them. They're all within 1 point of each other in the power index. Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Blaney, and then Christopher Bell there in 10th, Alex Bowman 11th, Kyle Larson 12th, Austin Dillon 13th. But yeah, so like all these top guys, top 6 are all within 3 points of each other with the power index. So that just tells me that there's not, I could justify a reasoning for all of these drivers to be good on Sunday. I'm not 100% sure what to expect, but so now it comes down to what kind of strategy do you play with your lineup. So let's get into and build some lineups here. So we got Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, all priced 11,000 or higher. All could be the highest scoring drivers on this slate. Got Larson at 10.7, Ryan Blaney 10.4, Harvick underpriced at 10.1, has significant dominator potential, could win this race. One thing, I believe he didn't start on the pole here at Homestead last year, but he was, I remember I was heavy on him that race when it was running in the day. When it got moved to the night race, that my confidence went out the door because I tweeted about this last year a few times. Kevin Harvick isn't that good in night races. He is, I would say, significantly slower in night races. I don't know if he has vision problems or if that team just doesn't quite have it on most night races. But if there's a night race, there's a good chance I'm going to be underweight on Kevin Harvick, no matter how good he looks. Unless he starts dead last and has place differential potential. If he's the most, if everyone's talking about him as a dominator in a night race, I'm probably going to be underweight on him this year. Just because the data and history shows that night races aren't great for Kevin Harvick. Obviously, there's going to be races that he has a good performance at night, but when you compare it to his average during the day, average to night, there is a significant gap there. Anyway, Brad Keselowski priced at 9,900 could end up being in the optimal lineup again this weekend. Well, I think he was last week. Logano was. He started second. Denny Hamlin underpriced significantly at 9,600. Joey Logano could be an alternate dominator for you, starting second. And then we got these place differential plays right in a row. William Byron, 9,100. Matt DiBenedetto, 8,800. And then the ultimate chalk play of the season, Tyler Reddick at 8,500. We'll get into my strategy here in a little bit with him. Alex Bowman, 8,300. And then the other place differential chalk plays, the rookies. I don't think Chastain's considered a rookie, but he is. 7,400 for Chastain. Chase Briscoe, 7,200. If you're playing cash lineups, those two are definite options. And then the low dollar guys. Really, I can't make an argument for looking at anyone outside of Daniel Suarez, Anthony Alfredo, and Corey LaJoie. Maybe Ryan Newman, but he sucked last year on intermediates. Don't trust Eric Jones. Like, now you're getting into the higher price stuff. As far as sub 6,000, those are the three guys: Suarez, Alfredo, LaJoie. Justin Haley starts too high for me. Ryan Preece starts way too high for me. I won't have any Ryan Preece this weekend. And And then you got the back markers, which then you're just hoping for wrecks. So let's dig in here and let's do a lineup. So when it comes to Tyler Reddick, he's the chalk. Like if his ownership doesn't eclipse 60% on Sunday, I will be significantly surprised. So my play there and my strategy, I have a very contrarian brain. I want to try to get an edge in places like that. I would go underweight, not significantly, but underweight on Tyler Reddick in tournaments, in mass entry tournaments. So if you think he's going to be at 60%, I'd be at 45, 50%. Not significantly underweight by any means, but having a little bit of edge there. So if he wrecks on lap 3, you still have, half or more of your lineups solid. Single entry contests, I love not taking Reddick, especially like qualifiers. He might single entry. He might be over 70%. Now I'm not good at projecting ownership percentage, but when Tyler Reddick was priced at 8,500, and with the race he had here last year, he's going to and you have a single entry contest or even a 3 entry max, he's going to grab a very, very high percentage of ownership. So me, I like pivoting to someone else, Alex Bowman this week, or Eric Almirola. And, instead of Reddick, maybe going with Byron or DiBenedetto, or even another direction altogether. And you can still put together lineups in single entry and 3 entry max contests and qualifiers with Reddick, and then just differentiate yourself elsewhere. But that is one example of where I would not play Reddick. Cash lineups, you're plugging them in and you're dealing with it. Everyone's going to have them. If they don't know what they're doing, and you're probably going to win your head to head. So let's do one. I really like Alex Bowman this week. I wrote him up in my article. You can see why I love Alex Bowman this week. Now, one thing to consider when building lineups, NASCAR isn't doing a competition caution this weekend, which benefits Denny Hamlin because he is the pole sitter. He should lead the opening laps unless Logano or Bell or Harvick gets around him early, which I don't see happening. Denny Hamlin should lead a significant amount of laps in the opening stage. Now let's look at his performance. So this is the 6th time in the last 7 races that Denny Hamlin has started on the pole. He has disappointed in nearly every single one of them. Last year was an outlier he led 137 laps. Again, throw in the fact that it was a night race. But last 6 races, started top 4 every single time, started on the pole in 5 of them. 2015, 0 laps led, finished 10th. 2017, 0 laps led, finished 9th. 2018, he led 41 laps, finished 12th. Zero top 5 stage finishes yet for Hamlin. 2019, everyone's going to blame it on the tape guy, which is the worst. Nobody can say that Denny Hamlin just isn't good in high pressure situations, which blows my mind. It's why he has me blocked on Twitter, because I reminded him of that so often. He's not good when the pressure is on. He is one of the most mentally weak drivers in the garage. This race was an example. He sucked. Yeah, he ran top 5. Congratulations. It was the biggest race of your career. You were the favorite to win the championship, and you led 2 laps, finished top 5 in both stages, and then your tape guy made a mistake at the end, which, was it really a mistake, or were they just swinging for the fences? And Hamlin, after that, gave up. That's what happened. He did what he does. He gives up when something goes wrong. Anyway, there's my little rant for the day. And then, of course, last year, he goes out and dominates. Which, of course. So, getting back to this lineup, we will got Alex Bowman in there. Let's throw Hamlin. let's just do like not a cash lineup, but what I think is just a really solid lineup. Reddick, of course. Anthony Alfredo is the best cheap option in my eyes, the safest. Corey LaJoie is interesting because we don't really know what kind of car he has. If he has, essentially, I read somewhere this morning that he said he basically it's a third RCR car without the name. If he can finish 23rd, he's going to be a great play there at 5,400. I still think, and I wrote why in my article, I still think Daniel Suarez down here, the super cheap options, is the best play for tournaments, because if that car has the speed again that it's had the first 2 weeks, which obviously those don't translate well to Homestead, but if he does, he could finish top 20 and be a great pivot play off of LaJoie and Alfredo, who are very risky plays. Not to say Suarez isn't risky, but you get the point. But let's go ahead. Let's throw LaJoie on here for now, just to save that cap and see what we got left. So we're sitting at 9,100 left with this lineup. I actually like Austin Dillon this week, as much as I hate to say it. His stats here are like, the saying, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Well, I use that analogy a lot with Austin Dillon, and this is more than a blind squirrel finding a nut. This is top 10s the last 2 races, top 12s the last 5, only one finished worse than 14th. You can't get much more consistent, and for Austin Dillon, you can't get much better. He starts 22nd this week. I think it's a great play there with Austin Dillon. And that gives you enough cap to come up here and grab a Ryan Blaney. Leaves you $100 left over with Hamlin, Blaney, Bowman, Reddick, LaJoie, and Austin Dillon. So you have top 5 winning potential with Hamlin, top 5 potential with Blaney. I think top 5 potential with Bowman, but definitely top 10. Reddick, top 10 potential. Austin Dillon, top 12. And then LaJoie, just please don't hit the wall. And this lineup here, you can sub out LaJoie for Alfredo if you want. You could also, instead of Blaney, if you want to go Harvick, if you think Harvick and Hamlin are going to be the 2 dominators, so you got Harvick, Hamlin, Bowman, Reddick, Austin Dillon, and then your choice of the 3, Suarez, Alfredo, or LaJoie. You have enough cap to do that. Now, what if we? So let's take Reddick off. Who do we want to take off here? Throw back on LaJoie. That leaves us $400. So we need $300 to get to Larson. I'm trying to see the best place to cut cap here is. Instead of Bowman, you could go Eric Almirola. I think Bowman has so much more upside, though. I'd still stick with him. But Almirola instead of Bowman, throw in Larson. So you got Hamlin, Larson, Reddick, Almirola, Austin Dillon, LaJoie. Instead of Almirola, come down and grab Chase Briscoe, another chalk pick. That gives you enough to come up and grab Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott. What if we do this? Take off Reddick, pivot down to Bowman, Kyle Busch. So you got Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Austin Dillon, and Corey LaJoie. Not in love with it, but it's a solid lineup if Briscoe can perform and if Kyle Busch comes up and dominates. What you need with Kyle Busch, he's going to be a solid option. But 11,800, you need him to get significant dominator points if he's going to be in the top lineup. Let's do a lineup with Christopher Bell. So I think Christopher Bell has enormous upside this week if he can get to the lead. One reason is Eric Jones was really fast in this race last year. Again, it was at night. I'm going to keep going back to that. But it's what we have to go off of. Eric Jones was really fast in this race last year. And now Christopher Bell coming off a win in that same car that Eric Jones was in. And also he is, I would say, more talented than Eric Jones. And then the one thing I think a lot of people are overlooking is the fact that he has Kyle Busch's old crew chief, who has been really good at this track. Kyle Busch, since him and Adam Stevens. So look at this. Kyle Busch, through his first 10 starts here at Homestead, one top 5. Really only one good race. Adam Stevens joins him in 2015. First, 6th, second, 4th, first, 6th. Completely different driver. Now, is that Kyle Busch maturing into the champion that he became? Can't really tell, but you can't argue with these stats that Adam Stevens and Kyle Busch produced great results at Homestead. Now, Adam Stevens is on the pit box for Christopher Bell. So I love playing Christopher Bell and not going super crazy on him, but definitely being overweight on him. I don't think he's going to be, again, I don't think he's going to be that high owned this week. Just like last week he wasn't. He might be even lower owned this week since he's starting third and since there's so many, he's right here between Austin Dillon, Chastain, Briscoe. But yeah, so let's throw on Christopher Bell. Could do Harvick or Hamlin. Let's just do Hamlin to save some cap. Let's do Harvick. Harvick, you do a Reddick, a Bowman. Throw on Corey LaJoie. Don't like that. What about instead of Bowman, jump down and grab Briscoe, or even I don't trust. I trust Chase Briscoe more than I trust Ross Chastain. I think Ross Chastain is going to be a little bit higher owned, and they'll probably be about even, just because Chastain starts a little further back. But that gives us the opportunity to run with Elliott or Larson or Blaney here. Let's throw Larson on there. So we have two early dominator potentials here with Christopher Bell and Kevin Harvick. And then we got Larson coming in, who could very easily, put up the most fastest laps. Reddick, the place differential play. Chastain, a place differential play. If you wanted to jump up, now you have the room down here with you, and once again you have your choice of Suarez, Alfredo, or LaJoie. So Larson, Harvick, Christopher Bell, Reddick, Chastain, Alfredo. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that one lineup to come to me and be like, this is it. I'm just not feeling that right now. Again, it's Friday. If you cut off Harvick and go Hamlin instead, you could, if you stick with Larson, jump up. I don't like Kurt Busch there at starting 5th. If you want to go Almirola, again, we go back to his stats. Last year on, this is low wear, 9th best average running position on high wear tracks. Finished, average finish, 7th best. Let's see how he's done at Homestead specifically. I remember back when, I think it was Almirola, when he was in the Richard Petty Motorsports car, like this track used to be his, his one shining moment before he went to Stuart Haas and got back. Okay. 5th last year, 9th in 2018. I'm actually, the more we're going through this right here, I'm liking Eric Almirola a little bit more and more. So here we got Hamlin, Larson, Reddick, Bell, Almirola, and Alfredo. You have enough cap that you could jump up and grab Suarez. You could go down and grab LaJoie. If you pivot off of Reddick and go down to Bowman, that leaves you enough cap to drop Chastain or Briscoe and grab Austin Dillon. Or I think, no, we dropped Bell. So Hamlin, Bowman, Larson, Almirola, Austin Dillon, Alfredo. And again, you have the cap space here to if you still want Reddick, throw in Reddick in there. What if we do a lineup like this where we're not really focusing on, the top 5 starters as the early dominators, so not Hamlin, not Harvick. Let's do a Martin Truex Jr. lineup here with Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick. Will we be able to do this? Bubba Wallace is interesting starting 19th. Again, we don't really have much data on that car and what kind of speed it's going to have. I was hoping to get Briscoe and maybe Bubba Wallace, but that's going to put us over. Who will we have to drop? So, how about this? Drop Reddick, add Bowman. We got Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Eric Jones, and Anthony Alfredo. That still didn't work out like I wanted. Bubba Wallace and Corey LaJoie. There we go. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Corey LaJoie. If Bubba Wallace can pull off a top 12 finish, I could see this working out. Again, Corey LaJoie just has to do what Corey LaJoie does and complete the laps. Do not wreck. That guy, speaking of Corey LaJoie, he really turned into, every week it was always, Corey LaJoie hits the wall again. When's the Corey LaJoie caution going to happen? He was solid last year. Not only overall, but if you look at Corey LaJoie on the low wear intermediate tracks, average finish of 22.1. He did not get enough credit for how he performed last year. That's better than McDowell, better than Ty Dillon did, better than Chastain 2 races, better than Suarez, obviously. Bubba Wallace absolutely sucked at intermediates last year. Ryan Preece wrecked a lot. But to get, to be right there with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Chris Buescher for that matter, with Corey LaJoie, it was impressive. Shout out Corey LaJoie for being a great low dollar option in 2020 on in DraftKings, as well as on super speedways. What if we do a lineup, getting back to the lineup building, what if we, will it work out if you have 2 low dollar guys and so you're able to then jump up and grab those high dollar guys that should get the fastest laps? Is that going to work out? Will it work out if you go with like a Suarez and Alfredo in a lineup? So I'd probably throw in, Reddick or Bowman. We'll do Reddick with this one. So we got an average leftover cap of 10-1 per. You're still going to have to grab Denny Hamlin here. And even then, if you go Hamlin, Harvick, and you still can't get Larson. So you're going to have to pivot off of, unless you go, instead of Alfredo, you go LaJoie. Hamlin, Harvick, Larson, that's a solid core right there if Hamlin and Harvick are the 2 dominators. Hamlin, Harvick, Larson, Reddick, LaJoie, Suarez. You just got to hope Suarez comes through and has a mid-teens finish, and LaJoie doesn't wreck. And that could be a very good lineup. And then you can also, you can obviously pivot off of Reddick and go Bowman. In case you can't tell, Bowman's really sticking out in my head as a tournament play this week. You could even jump down to Almirola. That's going to give you more room to work with. But if you did going back to this, damn, that still didn't work. I was going to try to switch Harvick to Blaney. But, so if you jump down off of Reddick and grab Austin Dillon, you can now go Blaney over Hamlin. If you still think Hamlin's going to, lead, which he should lead a significant amount of laps early, still can't get right up there. So cut off Austin Dillon, throw on Chase Briscoe. You can get Truex now. So Truex, Larson, Hamlin, Briscoe, LaJoie, and Suarez. Solid lineup, especially if Reddick, doesn't have a good race and Briscoe does. If Briscoe finishes top 15, which I think he's capable of, and then you have, Hamlin, Truex, and Larson all getting significant dominator points. I could see a lineup like this working out. And you could, if you didn't want Truex, get Chase Elliott. Leaves you an extra $400 to play with. If you wanted to go, you can't get Harvick there. If you went off of Suarez and went Alfredo, then you could Harvick, Elliott, Larson, Briscoe. It's like this type of lineup still isn't, making my head explode. Like, oh, there it is. I do think optimal lineup construction is going to only have one low dollar guy. Obviously, that's going to change if two of these guys perform better than expected. But with this value right here in Chastain and Briscoe and Austin Dillon, all under 8,000, Eric Almirola, I think this area is going to be important to hit the right drivers on. I always gravitate toward Briscoe over Chastain. And of course Bowman. I don't like, so obviously there's William Byron and DiBenedetto. We haven't really talked about much here. I don't love them at their price points. You could definitely use them off of Reddick as a pivot off of Reddick, but I think the move there is to go down to Bowman or go down to Almirola or go down to Austin Dillon or go down to Bell. But instead of Briscoe, we go up to Austin Dillon. This is probably like the lineup we had earlier, huh? So Logano could surprise some people. Obviously, he starts second. And you could throw Larson on there as well. Larson, Logano, Bowman, Reddick, Austin Dillon, LaJoie. You have enough cap to jump up to Alfredo if you want there off of LaJoie. I don't hate that lineup by any means. As kind of a contrarian, but at the same time you have some chalk there in Reddick play. Or if you want to save him cap, go Blaney instead of Larson. Allows you to get Suarez on there. Also allows you, if you're on LaJoie, to, I think we made this lineup before. Let's go up to Hamlin. Or if you don't want to go Reddick, go DiBenedetto, who again, I think he finished top 15 here last year. I think he finished 14th. But yeah, so remember, one thing to remember as you're making your lineups is that no competition caution this weekend. That not only helps Denny Hamlin stay out front, assuming he has a good car and can race at the beginning, but also that hurts the guys, DiBenedetto, Reddick, anyone starting, further back. It hurts, especially if they roll off and don't have a great setup and they need to make adjustments. They're not getting that automatic caution, and there's not enough time during green flag pit stops to really make any significant changes without losing a bunch of time, which you're already losing time if you don't have a good setup to start with. So those are my thoughts for Homestead. To be honest, I'm feeling more confident in FanDuel lineups this week than I am DraftKings. That could change, but as of right now, on Friday, I am planning on going kind of definitely lower than my normal play. And that happens early in the year for me all the time, where I'm just not confident, especially at these intermediate tracks. And the first time we're visiting these tracks, I just don't have a ton of confidence, especially when there's so much chalk place differential that comes into play here. That's not my ideal situation to be really, really good at DraftKings. But definitely going to play, definitely going to have some fun, and good luck to everybody this weekend. We'll see you next week for Phoenix. See ya.